Hi everybody. So this is my next installment in the 2018 YouTube Pagan Challenge, and I is for integration and integrity. Now I apologize in advance if the lighting isn't good. It's a dark and stormy day here, and so I've got this bright light pointed at my face in the hopes that the lighting will be okay. I'm going to start with integrity because it is the first one that sort of manifested in my path. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, but when I went through what I refer to as my initiation, and I got misdiagnosed and later found out that I had viral pneumonia and laid in bed for a month and a half, literally passing out from the pain that I was in, wishing that it would end anyway, even in death, just for it to end. Smelling things no one else smelled, hearing things no one else heard, the weird dreams, and all of that leading into the evolution of my path from that illness. Not long after that, at the time where I hadn't quite discovered what I was or what was happening to me. And I was performing ritual at that point, but it was very instinctual. It was just that there was no sacred space. There was no calling anybody in. And I really was just doing what I was guided to, what I felt I needed to do in that moment. And this is before I really looked into any sort of witchcraft or shamanism. So at this time, I was like a raw nerve, and thinking about this video, I kind of got jealous of myself because at the time I was very tapped in. Not that I'm not tapped in now, but now I have all kinds of outside distractions. In that time, it was all very raw and fluid and instinctual and guided. There was no books to look at or anything. And I felt somewhat lost, but it was just a really pure time. And during that time, it occurred to me that I needed to find integrity. And that's not to say that I didn't have any integrity at all, but I needed spiritual integrity, I guess. So integrity is defined as a quality of being honest and fair, or a state of being complete or whole. Now for me, I was thinking of the honest and fair part, but from where I sit today, I understand that doing that part of the integrity brings about the second part of the integrity, which bleeds into the integration. So what do I mean? I'm just going to give you a couple examples from my own perspective. When I was younger, I had traits that I had inherited from my parents, and I mean personality traits, behavioral traits that I didn't necessarily like. Of course, I had some that I did, but there were definitely things that I didn't like. And I had to take a good hard look at myself and say, when these behaviors would manifest, they would just come out naturally. It wasn't thought about. It wasn't, immediately afterward, I would say in my head, oh, that's just like my dad, or oh, that's just like my mom. And be upset about it, but kind of, without even giving it much thought, just kind of write it off as, well, they raised me. Of course I'd be this way. Of course it would manifest in me. And I'd have to say that these personality traits were watered down from them, which may or may not have been watered down from their parents as well. But I had to stop at some point and say to myself, no, I'm a grown-ass woman. I don't like this behavior, and I don't want to do it. And I had to be mindful of these things. So I had to have some personal integrity. I had to hold myself accountable. And that's what I started to do. I started to be very brutally honest with myself and those around me. Although I will say, when I'm brutally honest with other people, I do it in the most loving way possible. And I actually try to be that way with myself as well. I'm not trying to tear myself down. I'm just trying to be honest. Because if I don't face myself honestly, I can't grow and change and move beyond the things that I'm not happy about. So I had to develop this sort of personal integrity. I would say that even though it may seem somewhat unrelated, it also helped me with charity. We have charities that we give to, and I was very selective about the charities that I gave to, and I still have favorites, but around this time I realized it doesn't matter what the charity is for. If it's about helping someone in some way, that's a good thing. And even if part of my big hang up was, what if the people who take the money end up doing something bad with it? Because that does happen. Or being greedy and keeping it, whatever. And I had to let that go. I am only responsible for myself. And so I give this money to this cause with the intention that it do good for someone, and release it and let it go. Just like a spell, let it go. I've done my part. Whatever happens after that is beyond my control. So for me, integrity has been a huge part of my growth on my path. Really being honest with myself, taking responsibility. And this bleeds into Sith too. I believe that we come here and we have soul groups and we have contracts and we decide to do these things together. So even if from an earthly standpoint, I find myself in a situation or viewing a situation that is seemingly beyond my control, I still hold myself accountable. I don't blame myself, but I have some role to play in this situation, so I own that. Sounds kind of abstract, but just think about a personal relationship between a friend or a lover, and things go bad. And yes, this person was really ugly and nasty, and bad things came out of it. But there was still a role that each individual played in the situation, whether it be on a spiritual level or actually in the flesh. Usually a bit of both, at least in personal relationships. I've had relationships with men where they treated me really shittily, but I stayed in those relationships for a certain amount of time. I fed into that situation. I take responsibility for that. Having personal integrity is very empowering. I am not a victim. I am a master of my own destiny. And things that happen to me, even if they seem beyond my control, having integrity, I can sit and pick out the things that led to that situation. Again, not blaming myself, just owning my part. Understanding that any situation is multifaceted. That's that's how integrity has played a role in my path. I believe that we all need integrity, personal, spiritual integrity, to grow and evolve and to become more than what we are, to become quote unquote better than what we are. Having said that, that does not mean that integrity on your path will look like integrity on my path. It's about honesty and fairness and wholeness. All right, moving on. Integration. For me, integration is this idea that there are many parts of me. I am a multifaceted being. And whether I like every part or not, they all need to be accepted, loved, honored, and developed. that will look different for different things. I consider shadow work to lead to integration, working on the things that we don't necessarily like about ourselves, old wounds, things of that nature. I consider soul retrieval to be an aspect of integration. It will lead to integration. And there are many practices we can perform to set ourselves up for integration. I believe that I have done quite a bit of work that has led to personal spiritual integration, although I am not done. I am not whole and equal. Not everything is equal at this point, but that is where I'm going. It's part of my goal. My ultimate goal, honestly, is self-mastery. I want to be a master of self, and there are boxes I need to tick to get there. And when I say self-mastery, I mean no matter what is going on around the world, in the world around me, that I am calm and I am acting rather than reacting. Someone is nasty to me, I don't just snap back, which I don't really do usually anyway, but I don't get hurt. I'm in a place where I'm secure and whole within myself, so nothing outside of me affects that. And I can automatically see the wound within this person that is causing them to behave that way and have compassion for them. That's the place I want to go. I am not there. People are nasty to me, it'll piss me off. But hopefully, I mean, deep down I know. And after contemplation later, I can get to that place where I'm like, you know, that person is hurting somewhere, somehow, blah, blah, blah. But in that moment, I want it to be in that moment. That's where I'm going. And for me, I believe that integrity and integration are a huge part of that, as well as many other things. Yeah, these videos are always kind of rambly, and I'm sorry. I hope that made sense. That is my letter I. Thanks for listening, and until next time, much love and gratitude.